Hey guys, so I'll be doing a commentary video for the scrap gameplay. So some of you guys requested that I do this particular deck archetype and pretty much show you guys how I approach the gameplay for the deck list for scraps and being able to articulate whether and I can pretty much guide you through the process. Pretty simple deck, I would say, but at the same time, you still have to play against your opponent, and so you have to act in a certain way. So in this matchup, I'm playing against Agents on my first round. So right off the bat, I'm playing against a tier 1 deck, and I go first for the die roll because I want it. So I'm gonna draw for turn here, and let's see what I do here. So automatically, what I want to do before the game starts is I want to summon a Scrap Beast, and then activate the Scrap Storm to be able to destroy the Scrap Beast, and then being able to send the Scrap Chimera to the graveyard using Scrap Beast effect. That's kind of the goal of the deck when you want to set up. So let's see if I have that play. Yeah, so I do a T set here. The card I set to defense position is a Reborn Tengu, and I also set a Torrential, I believe, as well. So Reborn Tengu is one of those cards that allow me to float into the next Tengu if it gets destroyed. So also, he doesn't know what I'm playing, and I don't know what he's playing either. So I use this opportunity for me to kind of guise what I'm doing, so that my opponent doesn't know what I'm trying to do. So I do a T set here, very classic, very classic move in Yu-Gi-Oh, to pretty much guise what you're trying to do if your opponent doesn't know what you're playing. So let's see what happens here. So it looks like he's gonna set a back row here and do absolutely nothing. So it kind of tells me that he has a very high monster hand, but he can't summon any of them. So I'm kind of on the assumption that he's on Agents because he has been playing Agents for the prior week, so I can assume that he's playing Agents from his low commitment to the monsters. So what I do here is I flip the Reborn Tengu. Since Reborn Tengu is played in multiple decks, including Tengu plants, but as well as scraps and other decks, I believe, where they utilize them. I think they use them in Falcon Punch or something, but I'm not entirely sure. But he has to pretty much guess between the two. So I just summon the Reborn Tengu here. But now that I summon the Scrap Beast, the cat's out of the bag, he does know now that I'm on Scraps. Scraps is one of those decks that is not considered tier 1, even though I would personally consider it a tier 1 deck because it's a very aggressive deck, and so you can steal a lot of games just by being aggressive. So yeah, so I summon Scrap Beast here. If he responds with a Bottomless Trap Hole or a Torrential, I can just chain the Scrap Storm here if I do have it, and I do not have it. So it looks like I float into the second Tengu here, and he was only able to get a 1-for-1 as opposed to getting a 2-for-1 because Reborn Tengu floats. Lucky for me, I think the set card was actually a Call the Haunted here. So I think I go into the battle phase to flip the Call the Haunted, and he changed the Maxi here to revive the monster. So I contemplating here in this position here to Synchro Summon to Scrap Dragon, but I think I chose not to do that, and the reason why is because Reborn Tengu has an effect to special summon itself mandatorily, so I can't really say that I don't want to use the effect to special summon. So in that case, he will get a +2, and I don't think that's very wise for me to Synchro Summon. So what I do here is I simply just set a back row and I pass, I believe he's at 4 cards in hand, so the Tragodia here is at 2400 attack. So if he draws a card and he tries to summon a monster, it's going to go down to 2400 attack. And so I believe he knows that Scraps does play Horn of the Phantom Beast. However, I do not play it personally. So because he doesn't know that I'm not on Horn of the Phantom Beast, he switches. I'm pretty sure he shifts the Tragodia to attack position at being at 3000 attack. Because if it was at 24, then it would only trade. It would trade with the Scrap Beast. Because if I flip the Horn of the Phantom Beast, then the Tragodia pretty much goes to 24, and then to the Horn of the Phantom Beast is on the Beast is a 24 as well. Let's see what he does here. So yeah, he does what I think he does. He shifted attack position, and then he just attacks over my Scrap Beast, and he passes without doing anything. So his set is still there on the board. So he has a very low commitment here. He wants to make sure the Tragodia stays, make sure that I invest resource to try to get rid of it, and most likely I'm going to. So let's see what happens here. Most likely I do have a monster to be able to special summon the beast back, and I do, and I special summon the beast, and then here most likely I'm going to synchro summon the Chimera away The reason why I do this is because Reborn Tengu has value as a monster on the board. So I can choose to destroy him and destroy the Tragodia, but it really doesn't matter in the end, because if I choose to Synchro Summon with the Tengu, the Reborn Tengu and the Scrap Beast, and to make it a Scrap Dragon, then really I'm just getting a, what is it? At the end of the day, I'm going to have a Reborn Tengu on the field, my last Reborn Tengu, a Scrap Chimera, and a Scrap Dragon. So I'll have 3 monsters that can threaten his life points. So I could have done that play, but I'm going to choose not to do that play. Okay, so I say no priority here because I want him to waste his back row. I want to be able to I want him to be able to chain his back row to the summon, and if it isn't chainable, I pretty much deduce that that card is either a battle trap or it's a card that responds to me targeting it with the Scrap Dragon. So I pretty much make the guess that the set card is either a Dust Shoot or it's an MST, which either or are not cards you want to pop with Scrap Dragon, is my logic. So I'm most likely going to go for the Tragodia here with the effect of Scrap Dragon. So it just depends on what I do here. It looks like he does go down to 2400 attack again, and then I attack the Reborn, and then he MSTs the bottomless trap hole, and then he brings out the Gores. Okay, so this is a board that I have to break now because I swung directly with Reborn Tengu, but Scrap Dragon being 2800 attack means that he basically has to find a way to clear my Scrap Dragon, and if he does clear my Scrap Dragon, then I can spell summon the Scrap Beast from the graveyard, which is what I like about Scrap Dragon. So I have the option here of popping the Tengu here to pop the Gores, as it is the strongest monster, and I bring the Tengu in attack position, and I don't want to put it in defense position because the token right here is also at 1700, so he can just attack over the Reborn Tengu if it's in defense position. So yeah. So I believe he wanted the Gores to stick around, but there was no way for him to keep the Gores with the token, so he can tribute summon from her Hyperion. So all I've known from him so far is that he's played Gores and Tragodia, so I don't know what he's on, but I know that Gores and Tragodia are usually belonging in decks where they like to keep a big hand size, and so that kind of deduces that he's on Agents. So I'm pretty much guessing he's on Agents. So he goes to attack position and he crashes the Tengu, or he crashes his token in the Tengu, and he sets 2 more new back row. Okay, so the interesting about this position here is that players who play against Scrap Dragon and they can't deal with it know that if they don't deal with him, that means that they can't set battle traps. And if they can't set battle traps, then they have to pretty much set a bluff card, and then hopefully that the battle trap doesn't get destroyed in the process. So I take that with a grain of salt and think, should I normal summon a monster into a potential Solemn Warning? And the answer to that is most likely going to be yes, because Solemn Warning doesn't deal with the Scrap Dragon that's currently on the board. So it's no fear for me to normal summon because he's already also used Torrential, is my logical tree here. Okay, so I go straight into battle phase here. And so it looks like he didn't set a battle trap. And Agents typically don't play battle traps anyways, except for maybe Book of Moon. And so he didn't flip neither the Book of Moon nor the battle trap. So it leads me to believe that those set cards are more like MSTs and Dust Shoot. So let's see what I do here. I send into the back row here to try to bait him to use the MST on my new set. And it turns out it was not a new MST. Okay, so let's see what he does here. He's going to be normal summoning the Venus here. So he MST'd my bottomless trap hole, so he felt pretty safe to summon the Venus here because it's unlikely that I'll have the second one. So now I had to pretty much guess, well, how do I want to respond to the Agent of Venus here? I do play Phoenix Chain in this deck, so I could flip the Phoenix Chain here to target the Venus to basically negate the effect to special summon Shine Ball. So I let him special summon 2 of them because I want him to pay life points so that my Scrap Dragons can do more damage. Pretty much threaten lethal. So he goes into the Gachi Gachi here. And now let's see if I respond to the Gachi Gachi. And I don't think I do. So he banishes for the Venus here. So if I do have the Solemn Warning, now would be the prime time to use it. Otherwise, he's going to be using the Hyperion effect to... he's going to attack over the Scrap Dragon. So I contemplate whether I want to warning here. If I do warning here, that puts dark in, puts a light in his graveyard, so that can mean that he can special summon BLS. So I'm hoping that my other back row, I think the other back row was Phoenix Chain. We'll see what happens here. Yeah, so I warning here. So if it was a Phoenix Chain, maybe I should have made him declare the attack on the Scrap Dragon. And if this is a Phoenix Chain that I suspect it is, I can Phoenix Chain on the attack declaration targeting the Gachi Gachi, and then the Hyperion, being the smaller monster, has to attack into the Scrap Dragon. So maybe if this is a Phoenix Chain, then this is a misplay to use the warning, because he can have BLS here to deal with my Scrap Dragon. But then I guess my Phoenix Chain can deal with the BLS. So then that's kind of a move as well. So I guess there's no right or wrong play. End phase, I activate the Scapegoat. Okay, so I didn't have the Phoenix Chain here. So I activate the Scapegoat here because I want to be able to lock out his spells, such as Dark Hole or Heavy Storm. So I think I do this play where I use Scrap Dragon's effect to pop the Gachi Gachi. And since his back rows aren't doing really anything, I go for the Gachi Gachi to pop, and I go straight to battle phase to attack. So this puts basically 3 fairies in his graveyard, Hyperion and 2 Shine Balls. So I do still have to play around the Christia. If he does want to Heavy Storm here, then he's going to lose more cards than me. So I make sure that if I set the Heavy Storm, is fine. Looks like he draws into a BLS here, or had it, not too sure. He's going to be banishing a 1 Dark and Light, and I use the warning on the BLS here. So the warning helps me out here, so this tells me that I drew into it, and this card is something that I kept in my hand or something. So I don't know what I had set, so this is the first round of the tournament, and I don't remember what I set in this situation. But yeah. So we go to game 2 here. So I know that Agents are a deck that likes to side deck Thunder King Ryo, so automatically the cards that are coming out of my deck, in my main deck, is going to be Pot of Duality, and as well as Scrapyard, maybe 1 Scrapyard. And I'm going to side into Imperial Iron Wall against Agents because I don't want them to use the special summon the Hyperion for 1, and I also don't want him to use the effect of Hyperion to pop my card. I also don't want to get DD Crowed as well, so if I have Scrap Beast in the graveyard, I don't want him to chain DD Crow, as Agents is one of those decks that like to keep a big hand size, and by keeping a big hand size means that their DD Crow is most likely going to be amongst the cards in their hand. So I want to be able to have something to stop the DD Crow as well as the Hyperion from coming out. So Iron Wall is going to be my go-to play here. I do side. It looks like I set it out a Foolish Burial. So I'm not sure why I set out Foolish Burial, because the theory behind it is that I can set up under Thunder King Ryo, normal summon the Scrap Chimera, and then synchro summon into a Scrap Dragon. But I guess it is a 2-card combo, and so I do have to draw my 1 of Foolish Burial along with 1 of my 3s. So it's unlikely that I'll deal with the Thunder King Ryo in the event that I have the Foolish Burial with the Chimera. And if I don't have that, then I have to mind control the Thunder King and then normal summon a Scrap Beast to either XCs or synchro with it. So I definitely keep the mind control in this matchup because I am going second. Let's see what he does here on going second. Or going first. He dualities, so it looks like he's on one of those decks. And let's see what he gets. He gets the Torrential here into his hand. So him revealing that the mind control is is in the deck tells me that I can safely play my monsters, such as Scrap Dragon, and I don't have to worry about it being mind controlled until later, unless he draws it, but it's very unlikely. So I activate Scrapyard here because he does not have the Thunder King, so I want to activate the Scrapyard before it's too late. I'm going to normal summon the Scrap Beast here, and if he chains to the summon that is not warning, I think I can activate the Scrap Storm to be able to pop the Scrap Beast to set up. So it looks like I drew either the Solemn Judgment, so I set 3 here. Okay, so he does not have the Heavy Storm, so it looks like it's going to be normal summoning the Venus here, and then he's going to use the effect on priority. And then from priority, I have the response to respond with the Phoenix Chain. But I know that if he's calling priority activate Venus, that also means that he can just chain his Torrential, and then the special summon of the ball will go through. Okay, so in this position here, he could call priority again to special summon a second Shine Ball, and then he would have been able to get that. He would have been able to get the second Shine Ball out of his deck, But if he chains Torrential, then he loses the Venus and the Mystic Shine Ball. So he'll have one Shine Ball on the field if he chains the Torrential here. So for those of you guys don't know, Priority is able to be activated on any summon that you do. So even on the Shine Ball that he brought out from his deck on the board here, he can activate Priority on Venus, even though Venus was already prior on the board already. You can call Priority on Ignition effects, even if the monster that you're summoning is not the monster that you're intending to use the Ignition effect. What I mean is, he can basically use the Ignition effect of Venus on the board if the Mystic Shine Ball gets summoned on the board. It's much like Subsitoad being able to cycle all the frogs as Chainlink 1, even though the frogs are being summoned, unless you use Swap Frog ability, but that's another video. But yeah, basically, if Mystic Shine Ball were to have a trigger effect that's on summon, he activates the effect of that monster that he summons, like Mystic Shine Ball, then he can't call Priority activate Venus if the Shine Ball had a trigger effect. But in this case, it doesn't. So he can call Priority, use Venus effect to special summon the Mystic Shine Ball. Okay, so he tries to declare an attack here, and then we both forget that Venus Chain actually prevents the Venus from attacking here. So yeah, we just pretty much revert to the point where he couldn't attack. So he had the option here to special summon the Hyperion in this position. I do have a Blackhorn Heaven set, which is the card I set it in for agents. And Blackhorn Heaven is really good because it deals with boss monsters in agents, and it only trades 1-for-1, but it's a good 1-for-1 because Hyperion requires you a setup, whereas Blackhorn Heaven just requires that I set it. So it's a very good card still in Tengu Plant as it was in hat format. So I go into battle phase to attack over the Shine Ball, and then I set another back row here, having no fear. Let's see what he does here with his one set. He could be an MST, so he's going to banish here for the Blackhorn Heaven, or for the... he's going to banish the Hyperion here, which means that I can respond with the Blackhorn Heaven. And he doesn't have a Dark in the graveyard, so I don't have to worry about him special summoning the BLS. But it looks like he does have a Dark here. So if I do respond to the Tour Guide here by sending the Tour Guide to the graveyard, then he will have the option to BLS here. Okay, so he's going to special summon the Sangan here, and he has the option here to bring back the Venus using Levier. And if he does bring out the Levier, then he does have Venus back. And then the Venus back will be trouble for me because he can bring back the Shine Ball combo. Okay, so he's just going to target the Venus here. And I do have the Bottomless set. And I'm thinking about whether I want to respond to the summon. And he's going to call Priority on Venus and see if I want to Bottomless it. And I do. The reason why I Venus here is because I want to make sure that his second Hyperion doesn't come out. And I also don't want to deal with Gachi Gachi. And then in this position, he doesn't have a light monster in the graveyard too. Does he? Wait. Yeah, he has a Shine Ball in the graveyard. So he can special summon BLS, but I do have the Solemn Judgment to deal with the BLS. So he knows that he has to know that that last set that I have set is a Solemn Judgment because it's been there and I set 3. So he has to deduce that the set card is a Solemn Judgment. So the best play for him would be to find a way to like bait out the Solemn Judgment with a more lower priority trap or spell, and then special summon a BLS if he has it. So let's see what he does here. Or even a Chaos Sorcerer. Chaos Sorcerer would be really good in this position. Because once you banish the beast, I won't be able to normal summon the Chimera to revive it and then make a Scrap Dragon. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If he swings into the Scrap Beast with Levier here, then I guess he does have to worry about Horn of the Phantom Beast. So Horn of the Phantom Beast, even though I don't play it in my deck, that card existing in people's decks makes it so that they have to worry about attacking into my Scrap Beast in attack position. Because I can generate a +2. So maybe he doesn't attack here. Let's find out. Looks like he activates the Reborn here to revive a Hyperion, I believe it was. Yeah, it was Hyperion. So I could have Solemn Judgment the Monster Reborn However, I didn't want to pay half my life points to do that. So instead, I just let him use the effect of Hyperion to pop it. So yeah, I think I value my life point a little bit more. So it looks like he's going to go for the Maxi here. So I do recommend that in this position here, that you do Synchro into Scrap Dragon. Even though he's getting a +1 off the Maxi, the Scrap Dragon can deal with 2 of his cards on the board. So I can attack over the Levier and then use Scrap Dragon to pop the Hyperion. So that's my thought process. Even though he's getting a +1, he's losing 2 cards. So he's a -1, essentially. Yeah, you really only go off under Maxi if it means that they lose cards out of their board. That's how you play around Maxi. So maybe here in this position here, I should have used Scrap Dragon first to pop the Hyperion in the event that he has a set Battle Trap. But I don't believe that this deck plays Battle Traps because it's a deck that plays a lot of monsters, and playing traps actually hurts them. At least in my opinion. Traps that aren't like Battle Traps. So yeah, I'll go into main phase 2 to pop the Hyperion. So I could just basically leave the Scrap Dragon up there and then have Scrap Dragon do the work, where he has to make a monster that's bigger than the Scrap Dragon. And he does have a Dark and Light grave in the graveyard, so if he does manage to find a BLS here, he could pretty much gain control of the game again. At the point where I summoned the Chimera, I think I drew into the Iron Wall, so that's questionable because, well, there's really no question about it. I have to summon the Scrap Chimera, so it looks like his normal summons the Mystic Shine Ball here to go into his Gachi Gachi, making sure that I have to deal with it, and he chains the Torrential to the, or he activates the Torrential to the Gachi Gachi summon to force out my my effective Scrap Dragon. So now he has to deal with the Scrap Beast here. Let's see what he does. And he does nothing. So I'm not worried about BLS coming down or Hyperion because there's Iron Wall and he hasn't dealt with it yet. So now at this point in time, I have to either normal summon a non-tuner to Synchro summon into another Scrap Dragon, or I had to find a way to, and I basically got to deal with the Gachi Gachi. It looks like flashing his hand, he does have the BLS, so he needs to find a way to deal with the BLS or the Imperial Iron Wall. So he's going to activate the Maxi here. If I Synchro summon in this position, he's only going to get a 1-for-1. Oh, he's not even getting a 1-for-1, he's just basically a neutral because he just draws for turn. The Gachi Gachi being at 2000 makes it so that I'm deterred away from playing the Steelstorm Roach. Because if I had the Roach, it means that if he top decks into a Heavy Storm or MST, then that means that my Roach can deal with the BLS following, but then I can't deal with the Gachi Gachi. So I'm pretty much priced into making another Scrap Dragon here, as I always do. And then I just attack and then I pass or send to the back row. So I don't see an MST in his graveyard, neither do I see a Decree. So because I see neither Decree, or because I neither see Decree or MST in his graveyard, I pretty much have to guess the likelihood of him top decking into a Heavy Storm or MST. And since MST is at 3 in this format, it means he's more likely to draw into MST. So I need to set another back row to pretty much stop his BLS in the event that he has it on the board, or it has it in his hand. So, but he does have the Heavy Storm, which is, I'm playing the odds, and so I play into the Heavy Storm here, and now he activates Duality, which is really strange for me because now he can't special summon. So I breathe a sigh of relief when he brings down the Duality, because now he can't special summon. So now I can deal with the Gachi Gachi and even deal more damage if I want to. He picks the Tragodia, which is a pretty strange one for me as well, but I guess if he were to choose Dark Hole, it means that my Scrap Dragon will get the effect to special summon. So it's a tough call. So I think I'm on top deck mode here, and I draw a really good top deck here, which is Scrap Beast. It could have been Scrap Yard too, but I side one out. So this was a good top deck for me because if I'm able to pop the Scrap Beast, then at least I'm able to get the Chimera. And I know that he doesn't have Gourds because he showed it with Duality, but I know he has Trag. So if I attack with the Scrap Dragon into the Gachi Gachi and attack directly with Scrap Beast, then I basically am in a bad position because my Scrap Beast is vulnerable. But then since he drops Trag here, it means that I can use the effective Scrap Dragon to pop the Tragodia, and then use this effective Scrap Beast to recycle the Scrap Chimera. So what I should have done, even though he misplayed, I think this is a misplay to drop the Tragodia here. But what he should have done was not drop the Tragodia. What I should have done was use the effect of Scrap Dragon to pop the Gachi Gachi with the scrap piece to recycle my Scrap Chimera, and then just attack over the Gachi Gachi. This way, I don't have to worry about my scrap beast dying for no reason. Okay, so then this helps me get the Chimera here, and so yeah, this is perfect for me. But I know he has the BLS, so I'm very puzzled as to why he kept the BLS in hand when he had an out to the Iron Wall, and then not special summon it to banish my what was my board at the time? My board at the time was a Scrap Beast, I believe. No, it was a Scrap Dragon. I had a Scrap Dragon on the board with the Iron Wall. Okay, so now he has the BLS here, and he banishes a Dark and Light, the Sangan, and I believe a Mystic Shine Ball. And so now he has the option here of either going to battle phase or banishing. I do have the Scrap Beast in graveyard, but what he can do is attack anyways, and then attack over my Scrap Beast. That route makes it so that I lose 200 life points, whereas if he just simply banishes the Scrap Dragon here with the BLS, I lose no life points, and my Scrap Dragon gets banished. And Scrap Dragon being banished isn't really a problem for me because I do have a Scrap Dragon in the graveyard that I can Monster Reborn back. So the banishing here would be, I feel like it would be incorrect. So he banishes it anyways. Maybe he's afraid that I might have like a pot of average or something to recycle my guys, and it would be the fifth monster or something. So I go into the effect, and he doesn't respond to anything, which is really surprising to me. And it looks like I go into the third Scrap Dragon here. So this is a really bad position for me, either or decision he makes, because now I have to use the Scrap Dragon to pop one of my cards, and if I don't have a card that I can set to pop, then I have to pop itself and pop the BLS. So I'm pretty much trading a 1-for-1 at this position, and he would be up 3 cards to my 1. But you had to do something. So yeah, he's in a really good position. But he doesn't draw anything, and I summon the Scrap Beast here and attack directly. And I set a back row. Okay. So I think he's low on life now. He's going to special summon the Hyperion. I activate Solemn Warning, and that's game. Okay, I guess he was at very low life points. So looks like he didn't have enough fairies. Let me see. He had 1 fairy, 2 fairy, 3 fairy, 4 fairies. Wait, did he have 4 fairies? So let's see here. I warning the Hyperion. And this Mystic Shine Ball is still in the graveyard, and he has another Hyperion. Unless there's a card underneath this duality, which I don't think there is, he could have special summoned Christia here. So unless unless there's another monster on top of Hyperion, but I don't think that's the case because Hyperion was the last monster he summoned, and then I warninged it. So this Christia should have came down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Huh, that's weird. Why didn't he special summon Christia? He should have been able to special summon some Christia in this position. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt here that there is another fairy in this graveyard that we cannot physically see. 2, 3. Okay, yeah. So I'm pretty sure he could have special summoned Christia in this position. So it definitely should have went to game 3 because if Christia gets established, gets scrapped, that means I have to top deck a out to it, which is like Book of Moon. And I also had to have Scrap Chimera, which is also unlikely since even if I did have a Scrap Chimera, I can't make a third Scrap Dragon because I've used up all the Scrap Dragons. So yeah, anyways, so that's the gameplay video against the Agents. I was able to win it, but it should have been a game 3 for sure had he special summoned Christia. But anyways, we're going to go into another gameplay video against a different deck. I believe the next match was against Heroes. So yeah, stay tuned for that one, and yeah. Alright, so this is going to be another gameplay video between myself, who's playing Scraps, against Heroes. Hero Beat, I believe. He is playing on some kind of a different build of it. He is playing like Tour Guide, so I think it's Tour Guide Heroes. But the Tour Guide can go into Kushano in here, and he plays like the Cath Sith with the Wind Blast in his deck. So he also plays the Future Fusion as well to be able to dump the Kushano, so that he can use all his Cath Sith to blow up cards. So the idea, I think, he believes that Cat Seat's really good against Thunder King Ryo, so he can discard the Cat Seat to the graveyard and retrieve the Kushana to the graveyard, and then use Cat Seat to blow up the Thunder King Ryo. And then from there, he can just use all his emergency calls and basically play the game. So he summons the Stratos here. I don't know what build of heroes he's on, but I think Valoring the Stratos is always correct in most situations, so I prevent his search. So I get the Scrap Storm here off the Duality. And so if he responds to the Scrap Beast summon, then I can just activate the Scrap Storm to pop the Scrap Beast. So I activate the Scrap Beast here, and he activates the Solemn Warning. In this position, this is why I like having 3 Scrap Chimeras, because in this position, I now have a Scrap Chimera or a Scrap Beast in the graveyard. So if I hard draw the Scrap Chimera, which I play 3 copies of, then I can just normal summon the Scrap Chimera and revive the beast. So that's why I think fundamentally this deck is better. This is why fundamentally I think Scrap deck needs to play 3 Scrap Chimera in this position. So I'm afraid of him summoning a Thunder King Ryo, which is why I resolve or activate the Scrapyard to get the Scrap Golem. So I still have the Scrap Storm to be able to pop the Goblin in my next turn, and so I pretty much have to pass without doing anything here. I set a back row here to kind of like make him fear the Torrential so he doesn't summon another monster. So he activates a Rhoda here, so he was able to hard draw a Rhoda to be able to search the Alias, and then he's going to normal summon the Alias. So he doesn't. So he chooses not to respect the Torrential or the Mirror Force, which kind of tells me he might have like a Miracle Fusion in hand, so that he can banish for the Shining. I think I have a warning set in this position. So if he, it's a Scrap. It's a Scapegoat. So I'm gonna be able to. I'm gonna take the first 1800 because I want to be able to use at least 3 of my tokens to make Barkion or Beast, whatever the case is. So he sets 2 back rows here, and he activates the Dust Shoot. He's going to choose the Scrap Golem, which is really good for him because now my Scrap Storm has no target. So me fearing the Thunder King Ryo made me preemptively use the Scrapyard. Had I not used the Scrapyard in this position, then he would have targeted the Tengu, and then I would have been able to activate Scrapyard on this turn to summon the Scrap Golem and then use the Scrap Storm. So this is pretty bad for me. So I do have the Torrential in my hand, so it looks like I think I drew into it. I had to have drawn to it. And I set the Torrential here, and I set the Tengu. So it looks like he's going to activate the Gemini Spark here to pop my back row. And now he has free reign to destroy my whole field. He activates the Future Fusion, revealing the Shining, and he's going to send the Kushano. So now all his cat sits are live, I guess. He's going to normal summon the Tour Guide here to spell summon the Sangan. So, and he's going to activate the Miracle Fusion. So he's going to go pretty hard on the paint here, knowing that I don't have the Torrential. And so now he has to consider whether he wants to destroy all my Tengus or all my or part of my Scapegoat tokens. But we'll see what happens here. I think he decides to destroy all my Tengus, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so yeah, he made the decision to destroy all the Tengus. So the first Tengu has to go in attack position, and the second one can be in defense position because I have Scapegoat tokens. Yeah, so I think I made a misplay to leave the third Tengu in attack position because this Stratos was always going to either hit the Tengu or the Scapegoat. So if it was in defense position, hypothetically he can attack with the Sangan in defense position, and then Stratos has to go over, and then I would lose 100 less life points. So yeah, this Tengu should have been in defense position. But it's 100 life points. It's not going to matter too much. Okay, so I top deck into a Scrapyard, which is really good for me. So I can summon the Scrap Beast here. However, I don't play a Catastor. And so this puts me in a really bad position because now I had to figure out a way to deal with the monsters on the board with a level 6 Sangro, which is only going to be Bryanek, and that's not good enough. So what happens here is most likely I'm going to set the Scrap Goblin, and I'm going to use Scrap Storm once he's flipped face up. And hopefully he doesn't have an out to this Goblin. Heroes historically has a really tough time getting over like Spirit Reaper like effects. So that's why I search for the Goblin here and then set the Scrap Storm. And hopefully he doesn't have an out to it. His only out would be BLS or a card that can destroy a card face down. I don't think heroes can destroy face down cards, but or the Fable cards either. he would have to main phase 2 use the effect of Kushano in the graveyard, discarding the casted to pop it. That was his only move. Maybe there's an Xyz. I don't think there's an Xyz that can deal with Scrap Goblin either. He could go into a Leviair to revive his Stratos. No, it's not Stratos. It's Alias, but that's not going to do much. The Utopia's not going to do anything with the overlays. So yeah, his only out here would be BLS. If he detaches for one of his Xyz, rank 3 Xyz. Okay, so he gets the Leviathan Dragon, detaches here, and he pretty much, yeah, he has the Dark and Light. Yep, so he had the BLS. Okay, so maybe in this position, maybe I should have, no, if I put the Scrap Goblin in attack position, it would be incorrect because he could just attack all his monster into my my attack position Scrap Goblin, and I would lose a lot of life points because it only has 0 attacks. Okay, so hopefully I can top deck into something here, and I draw and I scoop. Yeah. So he gets the first game with the combo that he had, and Scrap Goblin was not enough to stall out against him. So let's see what happens on the game 2 and 3. So heroes typically are a deck that likes to control your opponent. So I fully expect Thunder King Ryo to come down, even after turn 1, where I set up first, because I don't want to deal with like a top deck Scrapyard and he has a Thunder King Ryo, or a top deck Duality. So I side out the Dualities and I side out a Scrapyard. And I think I side in Imperial Iron Wall. Imperial Iron Wall is so good in Tengu. I don't know why people don't side it. It's good against DD Crow. It's good against heroes because they can't use Miracle Fusion, and they can't special summon BLS. Granted, he could use the cast it to pop the Imperial Iron Wall, but if that happens, I think I should back it up with the Stardust. So I'm not entirely sure. He also plays Wing Blast too, so the Wing Blast is not what I don't know that he's on Wing Blast, by the way, but I know that he sent Kushano to the graveyard. That means that he's on some sort of like fabled variant of this deck. So it tells me that he most likely has to be playing Wing Blast. But there's no way to side deck against Wing Blast except MST. Alright, so game 2 is not going to start. I'm going to go first. I'm going to summon the Scrap Beast here and set a back row. He's going to activate the MST here to basically destroy my back row. And then I'm going to chain the Scrap Storm here to pop the Scrap Beast. And this is going to generate me a +1 because both the Scrap Storm is going to replace itself and the Scrap Beast is going to replace itself as well. So it's basically a Jar of Greed situation here because now I have 6 cards in hand and now he has 5. So pretty good for me to do this little setup to bait out the MST here. And it's also good that he wastes the MST here, which means that if I do have the Imperial Iron Wall, he has less, basically less answers to deal with the Imperial Iron Wall. So it looks like he summons the Honest here, and he attacks directly for 11, and I take it. And then I'm going to summon the Scrap Chimera to be able to get my Scrap Dragon, but he warnings the summon. I set 2 more back rows here, and hopefully he doesn't have a pro set Storm. He's going to summon the Stratos here, and let's see what I do. He resolves the effect and gets the Alias. So I go into Scapegoats to block out the attack, which is why I really like Scapegoats, because in the event, here's another reason why I like Scapegoats in this deck, because I didn't mention this in the deck profile. If I normal summon the Scrap Chimera and it gets warning because they don't want to deal with Scrap Dragon, this is another form of defense and also gives me monsters. So that's why I like Scapegoats in this deck, because I'm able to have more monsters on my following turn to be able to normal summon like a tuner if I don't have a Scrap Beast or a Scrap Chimera. If I don't have a Scrap Chimera, then I at least have either a Scrap Yard or a Scrap Goblin or a Scrap Beast to synchro summon with the tokens. Let's see what I do here. Yep, and I top deck into the Scrap Yard, and then this means that if I normal summon a Scrap Beast or a Goblin, I want to get Goblin because I want a different name in the graveyard. So this is why I get the Scrap Goblin, because once he's able to be in the graveyard, that means I can circulate, I can revive the Scrap Goblin from the graveyard with Scrap Golem, and then be able to make another Scrap Dragon. Even though I don't have a Scrap Golem in the graveyard. So I normal summon the Scrap Goblin here. Let's see if I go into a Barkion. Barkion would be able to deal with it, but instead I go for the Naturia Beast here. If I had gone Barkion, I think it would have been better. But I know that I make the read that since he's on some sort of hero variant, he's most likely going to have spells that can that he wants to resolve. So that's why I make the Beast. Barkion would be good too, but I don't want to walk into another Solemn. Actually, it doesn't matter. So let's see what happens here. I activate the Monster Reborn here to revive the Scrap Beast. And I think I have a Call of Haunted set. And then I mind control his Stratos. And he does the Wing Blast. So even if I did use made the Barkion here, it wouldn't matter. I could negate the Wing Blast, but I would the cast set would have been able to pop one of my monsters. So if this was, let's say this was a Barkion, I would negate the Wing Blast, and then he discards the cast set. The cast set would either pop the Barkion or the Scrap Beast. I imagine he's gonna want to pop the Scrap Beast because then I would have a Stratos and a Barkion on play, and the Stratos and the Barkion would only do like 4,300 life points. Yeah, about 4,300 life points, and so that would put him to 37. So I think that board is more preferable than making a Naturia Beast. But I don't know, I make the read. So I activate the Scrap Storm here to pop the Scrap Beast. So this way I'm able to recycle. I send the Scrap Golem here, so in the event that I'm able to, if Scrap Dragon gets destroyed, I can pretty much get this game out. Okay, so I take the Stratos here, and I think I just pass doing nothing here, because I can't summon another monster. Unless the set card is a Call of Haunted. So I send down the back row, and I pass. Let's see what I do here. Summons a tour guide here, so he's on tour guide, and so he can go into Kushano or he can go into Sangan. I warning the tour guide here, so yeah, so he goes to 6,000, tax over my last token. Summon the Scrap Chimera that I was able to get off of the Scrap Beast. So now my Scrap Dragon is really powerful. In this position, it means that if he were to destroy my Scrap Dragon by any means necessary, then I could just special summon the Golem, and the Golem's gonna get me another Scrap Dragon. Let's see what I do here. Do I attack and then not have to worry about Gores, or do I just use the effect right away? Looks like I go right away for the effect. So I have a Foolish Burial, and so in my deck profile I said that it has diminishing return, and this is a proof of that. I have everything set up. I have a Scrap Golem in my graveyard. I have a Goblin in my graveyard. I have a Beast in my graveyard. There's no need for me to use Foolish Burial in this position, so that's why I use the Scrap Dragon to pop it. The only return that it gave me was that it was a Scrap Dragon target, which is kind of the idea. So it looks like he gets the Miracle Fusion off the Duality. Let's see what happens here. So he normal summons the Grand Mole here, and I think I have Solemn. Yeah, I do have Solemn. So Solemn can deal with the Grand Mole, and then he just passes here. Okay, or he just skips here. Okay, he had 3,200 life points. Did he? Yeah. So I had to have summoned a. Yeah, I think he just skips because he knows that he can't do anything. Okay. So now we're gonna go to game 3. I am going second now, so it's gonna be a little bit different. I think I sided more MSTs to deal with his back row because he is on hero beat, and I don't want to walk into another Phoenix Wind Blast. So an MST would be good. All right, game 3 is gonna start here, and he's gonna go first, and he's gonna have this normal summon Thunder King, and he's gonna pass turn. Okay, so I'm definitely ready for Thunder King Ryo, especially in games 2 and 3. And my deck realized that I search, so I definitely have the upstart here to deal with, or to not deal with it, but basically circumvent the Thunder King Ryo here. So I want to draw into my pieces, my combo pieces. And the cool thing about Thunder King Ryo is that I don't have to worry about my Scrap Dragon being negated, because Scrap Dragon has an effect where I can special summon a Scrap non-synchro from my graveyard, even if it gets destroyed when it never hits the field. So what I'm saying is, if Scrap Dragon gets negated by Thunder King Ryo or Solemn Warning, I can revive a non-scrap synchro monster from my graveyard, even though it never hit the field. So that's the cool thing about scraps. He goes into battle phase directly, and then hits me for 19. And he sets a back row here. I chain MST in the end phase, or I activate MST in the end phase, and I draw for turn here. So I'm pretty bad spot still. I still have to find a way to deal with Thunder King Ryo. It looks like I have the Scrap Storm with the Scrap Beast combo set. So I'm hoping that I can scare him into attacking because of Horn of the Phantom Beast. Horn of the Phantom Beast is really good against Thunder King Ryo decks. I just want to point that out there. But I don't play it because I don't want to play a card that doesn't do anything to big monsters, especially agents. So he declares an attack into my Scrap Beast. On the declaration of attack, activate the Scrap Yard to send my Chimera, and then I'm gonna draw a card, send, and then get my Chimera back. Okay, so I get it back to my hand, and he can do a redirect attack, and I just take the 19. So he does a play here where he doesn't want me to normal summon my Chimera to revive the Scrap Beast. So I think he Monster Reborns at this position. And then I activate Torrential. Yeah, okay, this is a good position for me. But he has a normal summon, so he summons the second Thunder King, and I bottomless it. Okay, so far so good. And then I'm able to summon my monster. Even if I didn't have the bottomless here, I can still make the Scrap Dragon, and then he has to force negate with the Thunder King. The only difference is I would have more cards, right? So I would have the Scrap Beast, and I would have the bottomless set still, and he would have nothing. So it's actually beneficial for him that I bottomless. The only difference is I have a Scrap Dragon. So is it worth it to deal with one more card in the back row and a Scrap Dragon? Or is it worth it to deal with, with the Scrap Beast? Or is it better to deal with a Scrap Dragon? Since he is playing heroes, I would assume that dealing with the Scrap Beast is a lot easier than dealing with the Scrap Dragon. So, yeah, so it's good that I had the bottomless in this position. So, yeah, because Tour Guy can deal with Scrap Beasts, and there's a lot of different monsters that can deal with Scrap Beasts, but there's very few monsters that Hero can have that can deal with my Scrap Dragon. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to activate the Upstart Goblin here to give him 1,000, draw a card. And so I have the option here to Synchro Summon into a Scrap Dragon or Stardust. No, I can't make Stardust. I have to make Scrap Dragon. And I set another back row here. So I did set 4 back rows, I believe. So this has to be Solemn Judgment. And this card is like some new card. There was no reason for me to set 4 or 3 like that on turn 1. Unless I had something to back it up. So it looks like he activates the mind control here to steal my Scrap Dragon. This forces me to use the Solemn Judgment so that he doesn't get like a 2-for-1. And then I Solemn Judgment. So now he has to find another way that... Heroes has to find another way to deal with it. And since he doesn't have Kushano in the graveyard, he can't use the cat set to pop my Scrap Dragon. And even if he does pop my Scrap Dragon, I can go revive the Scrap Golem. Or no, not Scrap Golem, Scrap Beast. Let's see what happens here. I'm at 2100 life points. He normal summons the tour guide here, and see what happens. If he makes a Levier, that's not going to do much, because he can get the Thunder King Ryle with the Levier here. He can also go into Leviathan Dragon, but that's not going to do anything either. Okay, so he sets back row, IMST in the end phase. It's a dust shoot, and now all I have to do is being able to deal his monsters. I summon the Scrap Goblin here, so the question is whether I want to use the effect of Scrap Dragon right away. There's no need for me to go into battle phase with the Scrap Goblin, so I make the decision to pop with Scrap Dragon onto the Sangan. And then he's going to search, and then I'm going to attack 1800 over the tour guide here. Gets the Honest here. He's going to take 18. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm still in a questionable state, but I think I have the advantage here. But the thing is, he does have a dark and a light, I believe, in the graveyard, so I do have to deal with the fact that he might special summon BLS still, and he does have a darkness. So I think I have DD Crow in my hand, yeah. So I think I activate Crow here to banish his light monster, because I don't want to deal with a BLS. Okay, so now he only has darks, so now he has to do something else here. I hate doing this, by the way. I hate using the DD Crow preemptively just so that he doesn't use BLS. So, but I mean, I guess that's Yu-Gi-Oh for you. What are you gonna do? So he activates the emergency call here, and he's gonna search for a Stratos. Yeah. If he does search for the alias, it makes me seem that he has like Gemini Spark. Oh no, he has Honest. So in this position here, if he attacks, it tells me he's gonna use Honest. But I do have the compulsory. Yeah, I have a compulsory here. I remember now. But if I compulsory here, then I pretty much walk into a Gemini Spark. So I'm hoping that's not a Gemini Spark, and it's not. Okay, so I was really lucky that he didn't draw the Gemini Spark here, because if he did have Gemini Spark, he would have just popped the Scrap Dragon, and then my Scrap Dragon is going to float, and so he would have had enough life points to sustain damage from a Scrap Beast. But I do have a Chimera in hand, so there's that. And then, so in this position here, if I were to use the effect of Scrap Dragon to pop his back row, it wouldn't be lethal. And on top of that, most people don't set a battle trap against Scrap Dragon because they know they'll lose it. So most likely the set here is like some sort of like trap that doesn't do anything, or a spell. So I go in straight into battle phase. It looks ballsy, right? In this position, it really looks ballsy to attack with all this into a set, and it could have been a Mirror Force. But I know that I'm playing a human player, and a human player is not an AI that would set Mirror Force no matter what the situation is. But a human player is going to be like, I don't want to lose my set card to a Scrap Dragon, so I'm not going to set it unless it's chainable. So I make the read that I just go straight into battle phase and then try to go for lethal. Yeah, there's two things going for me, which is that that logic that I just said, but also this is lethal. So there's two reasons that I use to pretty much convince me to attack directly with all these guys, despite the fact that that set might be a Mirror Force. It was a miracle. Yeah, so it was a miracle. It was a bluff. So I was rewarded for the risk that I made here. Even if he did Mirror Force, I think it wouldn't matter too much because my Scrap Dragon revives itself, revives the Scrap Beast, and I can still do 1600 damage. But that's not as good because on the next turn he could have summoned a Thunder King Ryo here. He still has the Honest, and he still has a Miracle Fusion. So yeah, I don't think it mattered too much. Yeah. Because I compulsoried his alias back to his hand, his Miracle Fusion was dead. So yeah, that's another reason why compulsory may or may not be good, is that it bounces back the hero back to the hand, and since Miracle Fusion only banishes from the field and graveyard, it doesn't banish from the hand. Compulsory has another utility in that respect, so that they can't honest you in some moves. Yeah, so that's the gameplay video between me and Heroes. It was a very close matchup. However, I think the reason why I was able to win, close out game 2 and 3, was because I had the Solemn Judgment. But I am playing 34 cards in my deck because of the Upstart Goblins and my Scrapyards and my Duality. No, not Duality because I cited it out. So I'm basically playing 38 cards in my deck. So that allows me to thin out my deck a little bit more. So I'm most likely going to see a Solemn Judgment than not. Yeah. All right, so that's a gameplay video against Cat Sit Heroes, Tour Guide Heroes, and so we're gonna go into the next round. It's gonna be my last gameplay video commentary, so stay tuned for that one. Okay, so this is going to be the last commentary video for this particular scrap deck list. So I want to show you guys how this matchup fares against a Jurak player. So Jurax is a very uncommonly played deck, especially in Tengu. So there's a few Jurak enjoyers in Tengu Plant Discord. So if you guys want to know who they are, just go on there. But Mike is one of them. He's a big advocate for this deck, and he actually knows a lot of different rulings regarding Jurax. But enough of that. I think I win the die roll here, and I decide to go first because I want to set up first. So let's see what happens here throughout the game. So I set 2 here because if he does have the Heavy Storm, the Scrap Storm that I have set, I don't have a Solemn set in this position because a Heavy Storm is actually just going to be a 1-for-1. Because when you Scrap Storm away your Scrap Beast, you're going to be able to draw a card with the Scrap Storm, and then the Scrap Beast is going to recycle itself with the Scrap Chimera that you send off to the graveyard. So really it's a 1-for-1, even though I do lose 2 spells and traps in the process. So most likely he's going to Heavy Storm here. if I remember correctly, and I lose a 2-for-1, but it's not really a 2-for-1 because the Scrap Storm replaces itself. So this is a Jar Greed scenario with a Heavy Storm in hindsight. In actuality. Sorry for the camera angle. I thought the camera angle was correct, but sometimes the movement of the table shifts the camera to the wrong angle. Okay, so it's going to resolve here. And he thought about chaining his Forbidden Lands potentially to my Scrap Beast. And if that happens, then I just still send the card to the graveyard from the deck using the Scrap Storm and draw a card. But I will not be able to destroy the Scrap Beast. So the Scrap Beast would stay if he lands here, which is okay. Because if he does trade the Lance and the Heavy Storm, then I still keep my Beast. So that's how I see it. And then I just basically have my my Beast on board with no back row. And then I'll generate a +1 off this exchange, I believe. So the Scrap Beast is going to allow me to get the Scrap Chimera back to my graveyard. So it's pretty good. He activates the Fossil Dig here. Maybe he could have played the Forbidden Lance if he had it on the Scrap Beast. This way he can normal summon a Guaiba, Drag Guaiba, to destroy my Scrap Beast in battle. And then special summon another direct monster from his deck. Or maybe he doesn't have the Forbidden Lance. I'm not entirely sure. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt that he was just trying to mind game me. So he's going to normal summon the Thunder King Ryo here. In this position here, if I were to normal summon the Scrap Dragon that I have in my hand, in this position here, if I were to normal summon the Scrap Chimera here, and then I were to Synchro Summon with the Scrap Beast and try to make a Scrap Dragon, and he negates with the Thunder King Ryo, then what happens is the Scrap Dragon still gets the effect to special summon a Scrap Beast from my graveyard, or a Scrap non-Synchro monster from my graveyard, and so I'll be able to special summon the Scrap Beast in my graveyard even after the Thunder King Ryo, so it really is a +1 by doing that. So that's really good for me if he does negate. So he does need to find another back row in order for me not to generate this +1. But since he doesn't have any, it tells me that he doesn't have an out to this. So yeah, so I informed this guy that if you negate the effect of Scrap Dragon summon, if you negate the summon of Scrap Dragon with the Thunder King Ryo, then the Scrap Dragon won't be able to revive a Scrap non-tuner. So I could get the Scrap Chimera, but I'd rather get the Scrap Beast because he is a tuner that I can use with Scrap Storm. Plus, there's more non-tuners in my deck. I do play 3 Reborn Tengu. So in the event that he normal summons a monster, if he doesn't have another monster in his hand, then he can, then I can normal summon a Scrap Tuner, or I can normal summon Tengu or a Scrap Chimera to Synchro Summon with the Scrap Beast. It is very tempting though to set, to bring out the Chimera, but looking at my hand, it looks like I do have another Scrap Storm in my hand. So if he does normal summon another monster to try to crash over the Scrap Beast, then and he tries to get the effect with the Guaiba, for example, then my Scrap Storm is gonna basically make my monster go away, so he doesn't get that value. Okay, so no Gores here, and then since I know that his Heavy Storm's out of the way, I'm tempted to set 3 here, but still I do have to play around a potential Black Rose because I know that there is a direct monster from my poor recollection of Durex, that it's a level 3 non-tuner, or it's a level 3 tuner. So I feared that he might attack with the Guaiba and special summon the tuner level 3 to make a Black Rose. So in this position here, in case he tries to do anything, I'm just gonna set 2 instead of 3. I do have I was planning on setting a duality next to one of these 3 so that I can bluff out a MST, but I choose not to do that because I feared the Black Rose. So let's see what he does here. He's going to be summoning another Thunder King Ryo here. So the Thunder King Ryo is going to be, again, if I do have the Scrap Storm, I can recycle the Chimera here. So the second Scrap Storm is really good in this position because I do play the Scrap Golem. So if I do Scrap Storm, I can send the Golem to the graveyard, and then the Golem is going to be able to make a Scrap Twin Dragon. And the Scrap Twin Dragon has the same floater effect as my Scrap Dragon, so it's still good. So I'm going to take the 1900 life points direct as opposed to allowing him to run over my Scrap Beast. So it's as if he gets the same +1. But the only difference is I lose nothing in this process. Whereas if I let him attack over the Scrap Beast, I would actually go -1 for allowing the attack to go through. So I'm going to use my life points as a resource here, where I let the Thunder King Ryo attack me. Okay, so I draw, and then I send, and then I use the... Oh, it looks like I didn't send anything. Oh, never mind. I send the Goblin here. So not sure why I sent the Goblin. The only reason why I would send a Goblin here is that maybe I already drew the Scrap Golem. So if I drew Scrap Golem, then this means that the Goblin's correct here. Let's look a peek at my hand here. Yeah, it looks like I do have the Refrigerator in my hand. So I took the risk of playing it in my deck, and I drew it, unfortunately for me. But it doesn't really matter, because as long as he doesn't set a back row here that's actually usable, then this Thunder King Ryo is going down for free. Oh, I see. So it looks like I go for the Call the Haunted play, where I'm going to tribute summon for the Golem here. The only trouble here is if I use the effect of, if I go into battle phase to try to run over the Thunder King right here in this position, then he could flip the Forbidden Lance that he might have set from turn 1 potentially to make my Scrap Golem go down to 1500 attack. So instead of doing the battle phase, I go into the main phase to use the effect to special summon the Scrap Goblin or the Scrap Beast. So this way I can make a level 9 Synchro here. Yeah, so it looks like I am going for the Beast play, so I can go into the Scrap Twin here. Okay, so the Twin Dragons here is going to force out the Thunder King Ryo. And this is a really good play with the Call the Haunted, because now I have a target I can pop with the Scrap Twin in the event that he chooses not to negate with the Thunder King Ryo. Okay, then I'm going to revive the Scrap Golem. And this is what's really powerful about Scrap Golem, is that if he does choose to negate the effect of the Synchro Summon of Scrap Twin Dragon, and he and the monster gets destroyed by his card effect, then I can bring back the Golem. And since I already used up my normal summon, I can use this effect to special summon the Scrap Beast to go into Scrap Dragon, the second one. Yeah, so this is a really amazing position for me, because now I can go to Scrap Dragon and then pop the set card that he has with the for the Call the Haunted. And even if it has an MST, it doesn't really matter, because he's just going to trade the MST with the call. And it was an MST. Alright. So strangely enough, he doesn't activate the MST to my Call the Haunted, but he had it, I think I did this on the end phase when this MST was set, but he would have had to preemptively activate the MST on my my Call the Haunted prior to main phase, because once it goes to main phase, then I have the open game state to be able to call priority to do moves first. So I basically get to do my moves first. And so since I already know that this is the same game where he heavy storms me, then I have no fear of sending back rows, more than one back row. So he's down to 2 cards, and I'm up, I believe I got a +1 off of 2 Scrap Dragon, a Scrap Twin and a Scrap Dragon. And this was able to trade with the MST. So I'm up like a lot of cards. And it looks like he only has 2 cards in hand, I believe, or 3. Yeah, so he just skips this one. Yeah, so Thunder King Ryo, as good of a card as it is in this format, because my Scrap Dragons are able to circumvent his negation ability, it means that this deck is really good into the Thunder King Ryo matchups. However, I do play the Scrap Yards and the Duality, so I fully plan on siding them out against this matchup. And you know, I think he still keeps in the Thunder King Ryo, even though he knows that the negation ability of Thunder King Ryo doesn't do anything. I'm definitely going to sign in the Iron Wall for the reason of being able to protect my my monsters from being DD Crowed. So maybe I suspect that he's going to DD Crow my guy. Yeah, but other reasons, there's no other reasons to side Iron Wall other than DD Crow. So if you guys don't care about DD Crow and or being DD Crowed, then don't side the Iron Wall. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think Jirax side any DeFi, although they could technically side the Dimension Fisher, but I don't know if Velo activates his effect when it's sent to the graveyard. Let me just double check here. Because Velo is one of their recruiter monsters that has to be destroyed while in attack position. So I'm not entirely sure if they need to be sent to the graveyard. Yeah, so it looks like DeFi is not going to be a good side deck for Jirax. I know Guaiba, though, can destroy a monster, and then he can special summon still under Dimension Fisher and Macrocosmos. Because that was used in Dino Rabbit, And Dino Rabbit format was a format where people used to main deck Macrocosmos, and then they would use Guaiba to attack over a monster with Lance, and then go into Logia. But that's not the format that we're talking about. But I just wanted to give you guys an interpretation of the ruling, so that he has a way to out the monsters. I think I cited in an extra Veiler. The third Veiler in my side deck went into this because I'm not sure about the ruling between Veiler and Guaiba. But for those of you guys who want to know, in the event that you ever come across this deck, is that if you Veiler a Guaiba, if you Veiler a Guaiba in the main phase and they crash into your Tengu, that also has 1700 attack, then the lingering effect of a fake Veiler is now gone because it activates and resolves in the graveyard. So that is a ruling that we disputed over some evidences and also logical analysis of the ruling, and we both came to the conclusion that the effect Veiler does not follow the effect of direct Guaiba when it is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, because in substep 7 of the damage step is when both monsters lead to the graveyard, and because it is now in the graveyard in substep 7, it activates and resolves in the graveyard. So just an FYI for you guys, whoever come across this deck, that is the ruling. This is also true for like Blue Thunder as well, but nobody plays Blue Thunder Spaceship. There's another card too with Lord British is another spaceship that also applies the same ruling. Full Helm Knight is another one too, so very similar. So I'm gonna activate the Mind Control here. I kept the Mind Control in because I want to be able to Synchro Summon right away with his level 4 monster, or if he summons a Thunder King, I can just steal it and then Synchro Summon. So no Maxi here, so I'm gonna go straight into the Scrap Dragon. Unless I drew the Floodgate, I will go into Stardust here. So I'll go to Scrap Dragon because I fear the Gores because he hasn't set a back row. If I had brought out Stardust and attacked him directly and he drops Gores, then I'd be in big trouble. So I activate the Scrapyard here. Even though I sat it out one, I drew one. So in case he just normal summons a Thunder King Rival the next turn, I want to be able to activate the Scrapyard to at least get my search off. In this position, I'm going to search for the Scrap Goblin because I already have the Scrap Beast in graveyard. And then I'm going to normal summon the Scrap Goblin on the next turn to pop the Scrap Goblin and then get my monster back. So it looks like he's going to go for the Mind Control play here. So even though my intention with the Veiler was to negate the Guaiba, the Veiler here actually helps me out because his Mind Control stealing my Scrap Dragon is going to generate him a +1 in any position. But the issue is the Scrap Dragon won't get this effect because it's not being destroyed by the effect of my opponent's card. It's being destroyed by my own card effect because I own the Scrap Dragon, or my Scrap Dragon is my card and it's not his. Yeah, so I Veiler here. And so I didn't fear that he would tribute summon my Scrap Dragon because I know that Durax is one of those decks that likes to Synchro Summon. And so there's no Synchro monster that he can summon, or tuner monster that he can summon with a level 8 that he could just use with my Scrap Dragon in this format at least. The only thing I can think of is probably like Star Eater, but that comes out in later formats. So I just let him take the Scrap Dragon here. And he can't tribute summon because Mind Control stipulation. So his Mind Control is actually protecting my Scrap Dragon in a sense because now that the Scrap Dragon is on his side of the field and it can't attack, which means at the end phase he's going to give it back to me, which also means he can't set a back row to protect his life points from a battle trap. So he would need something like Compulsory, for example, to deal with my Scrap Dragon. Okay, so he's going to set a back row here and he passes back to me. He doesn't want to commit any of his normal summons for the turn, which is kind of surprising to me because he's going to need to at least keep a monster out there. Otherwise, he's going to lose a lot of life points, especially a Velo. In this position, I would probably normal summon the Velo if he had it, and then allow me to pop the Velo because I don't want him to get another monster by being by it being destroyed by battle. So at least in that position, he would have had that back row still, even though it might have been a dud. So it looks like I draw into a Monster Reborn here, which is really good for me, because I can normal summon the Goblin here, and if he Torrentials in this position, I can just revive the Scrap Dragon. But yeah, so this is a really good position for me. So the Foolish Burial is not a diminishing return, because in this position I can send the Scrap Golem to the graveyard. You use the Scrap Goblin to pop the use the Scrap Dragon to pop the Scrap Goblin, and then recycle my monster. Or I can send a Scrap Chimera to the graveyard, and then use the effective Scrap Dragon to pop the Goblin, and then get my Chimera back from the graveyard. So I think I go for the Chimera play here. Okay, so no, it looks like I go for the golem. Never mind. Okay, so he busts me out with the Dust Shoe, and I choose not to use the effect of the Scrap Goblin to revive, because it is optional. To recycle, I'm sorry. To recycle something, because I want to get the Golem, and then the Golem's going to revive my Scrap Beast. And then get my Twin Dragon. So yeah, so this is pretty much lethal. Let's see if he has Gores. And he doesn't have it. So that's his hand here. It looks like he had a land set. So he kept the Dust Shoot in going first, because yeah, this was game 2. So I'm uncertain of the Dust Shoot in Tengu Plant format, especially against Scraps. Scraps is one of those decks that like to commit to the field, and very few cards in my hand afterwards. I never go into 4 cards. I never go into 4 cards because the reason why is because I'm always setting the cards to the back row, especially if it's Storm. And I also have Solemn Judgment in this deck too, but I don't have Starlight Road. In the event that I do Scrap Storm, where I pop my Beast, I would have 4 cards. So even if he kept the Dust Shoot in for going second, the Dust Shoot would have that scenario where they can flip it and get my Chimera off. But that's like a very setup play. So I don't know. I feel like Dust Shoot's not really good, even if you're going first against Scraps. He has a hard draw, and since his deck doesn't naturally draw because he's playing fire monsters, and there's no like Allure Darkness for fire monsters, then it becomes really difficult to get the other cards out of his deck. But I can see why he does have the Shrink, and he does have the Forbidden Lands. So I'm not entirely sure what his plays was. And by the looks of it, he did have the direct Velo. But I'm not sure what his defense is. I think his defense is only like 400 or something. So Rekindling's not going to be able to get his monster. Yeah, it's 1,000 defense. So having 1,000 defense dinosaur is not making his Rekindling it's not doing very well for him. So yeah, I don't know how to play Jirax, but I was just looking at his hand and see what he could have done, but there's nothing he could have done. I think Scraps is just way too aggressive, and ending the game really quick is the key point, the key needed to win the game fast, so that your opponent doesn't see their 8th or 9th card, or 10th card even. Most likely they're not their 10th card. So yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll definitely do some more gameplay. I'll definitely do some more gameplay commentary in the future for you guys who are Tengu Plant enjoyers. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.